Welcome to Vin and Mike, episode 68, Friday night.
Friday night, live. Hello. Hello, America.
Have we ever done a Friday night show?
Hello, everybody. Huh?
Did we ever do a Friday night show?
I think, not a night show. We've done like quick picks real quick.
Oh, we recorded shows on Fridays that we would play it later.
Right.
I don't remember.
But not a live show. This is definitely something new. Live on Friday night.
Friday Night Live.
Vin and Mike.
Wasn't there a show to try to compete with Saturday Night Live called like Friday Night something or something like that?
Well, must have not done well. I never heard it.
We're going to do well at Friday Night Live.
And if we don't do well Friday Night Live, I'll put something on Thursday Night Live. Like, I never even heard of it.
It's Thursday Night Football with Vin and Mike.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? Wow.
Let me get to our official business, and then we'll talk about the show and all that fun stuff. All right. Vin and Mike is brought to you by Viggy Bets. Check him out right now on Twitter or Instagram at Viggy Bets. If you tell him you're a fan of Vin and Mike, he's been doing some pretty cool giveaways. You know, he's doing a lot of different things. I've seen him say 30-day free trial. So, I think it's worth it if you want to put a few dollars out there on an NHL game, an NCAA game, or whatever your betting desire heart wants. Check at Viggy Bets and let him know you're a fan of Vin and Mike. Also, we are on the TPPN, the Pigskin Podcast Network, out there with all those cool folks over there, constantly bringing in new shows and everything. Check them out, Pigskin Podcast Network. KKFI, Kansas City, they're still on their high out there. I still get messages from them talking about Pat Mahomes, but I'm tired of talking about Pat Mahomes, but we know how it is out there. And then if you want to check us out, everything, vinandmikepodcast.com. We got our store over there, still donating to charities every month. We appreciate people buying T-shirts, mugs, stickers, onesies for their children. I mean, there's some cool stuff over there on the store site. So go check that out as well. All right, Mike.
All right, Vin.
We're waiting for our special guest a little later here. We're going to it'll be the first show out of 68 that we'll be talking a little UFC. And some of that has to do with because Jon Jones is returning. And if anyone knows me and my relationship with Jon Jones, it's been going on for now 12 years. So with all that said, I'm very excited for tomorrow night and happy to be talking about UFC 285. But we'll wait for David Kim, our special guest, to come on and talk about it. Well, let's start off with your New York Knicks.
Just the way you said that brought me back to 94.
That's right.
But now we're in 2023, and these Knicks are hot, man. Like, let's just talk about that game against the Celtics. It was a huge game for them. And they just dominated the whole game. They just played what's happening with these Knicks right now is Clyde Frazier and Mike Breen, two of the best in the business. They're playing team basketball, and they're having fun out there. And there's a lot of respect for their coach. And what I'm really seeing right now is, we talked about this earlier, Vinny, when Jalen Brunson was traded to the Knicks from Dallas, we knew he would be good, but he's going on the level of great right now. When he brings up the ball, they have so many options right now. He's made Julius Randle a better player. Quentin Grimes, last game against the Nets, he had 22 points. Like, he's coming out. And then Josh Hart, who the Knicks recently got, and Vin just said this, they haven't lost since they got him. He's been a great pickup. Guy that could drive it to the basket, hit the mid-range shot. Manuel Quickly, Harnstein, the center over there. They have so many different weapons right now, and they're just having fun out there. They beat the Celtics, and a lot of people would have said well, they're playing the Nets and this could be a letdown game. People said that to me. They beat the Celtics. What's going to happen against the Nets? And then they score 80-some-odd points in the first half. Jalen Brunson has 30 points. And they just continue to rise to the occasion. And they have the chemistry that we were looking for. Pretty much right before the All-Star game, they got hot. And people thought with the All-Star game right in the middle there, that was going to probably go against their momentum. But it's done nothing but the opposite. Since that, they've just been a strong contender. They're making the extra pass. They're playing strong defense, and there's still room for improvement, of course. Right? I see some of Julius Randle's been outstanding. I know it's the last game against the Nets. Too much one-on-one basketball I was seeing with him. A lot of just driving into the basket and not making the pass. Just a lot of one-on-one, but aside from that, he's been unbelievable. So you have just little things you have to look at, but this is just reminiscent of the 90s Knicks and a winning team. We haven't seen a lot in 25 years. We haven't. We have not seen a lot. So that's why there's so much talk in the Big Apple right now about these Knicks. They're an exciting team to watch. And, the fact that Jason Tatum, that's going back to that Celtics game, who was so dominant, and they held him to 14 points, and it was a very quiet 14 points, I may add. That just shows the caliber of this team. And as a Knick fan a lifelong Knick fan, I'm just really excited about the future and what this team could do in the playoffs. So,
yeah, they're a 5 seed right now in the East. I'd like to see them see if they could get up to maybe the 3 or 4. I know Philadelphia and Cleveland are ahead of them. I don't think they get to the Milwaukee-Boston level at this point, but who knows? But I'd like to see them at least try to make a move maybe for that 3 seed, get some home games, get themselves in a better position to move forward here. But I think you make a couple of good points. Brunson is making a lot of guys around them a lot better, which is one of the things we wanted to see if he could do that. We weren't sure. We had these discussions a lot, last year on the show. What kind of player would he be away from Luka Doncic? Yep. Was he what he was there, or was he going to be a better player because he'll be able to do more things? And we've seen he's a better player. I would also like to see Julius Randle get away from that isolation game, because I think that's one thing that hurts him sometimes and hurts the chemistry of the team. Right. I want to see him, decide quickly on when he's going to, shoot or score or move to the hoop or just, pass the ball, give it up a little bit more. That double team comes down on him, kick it out. It's got some shooters there. The other thing, when they're playing well, you don't hear anything bad about RJ Barrett at this point, right? It gets quiet when you win, when the guy that maybe isn't living up to expectations.
It reminds me of Zach Wilson. That's exactly what it reminds me of, when people, how bad he was, but it was quiet because they were winning. It's exactly like that.
No one cares what anyone does when you win. Everybody's great. Everyone's great when you win. Yeah. But Grimes has been fantastic. He was not even in the rotation early this season, right? He was brought in, I think, when some injuries happened, and now he's a starter out there and filling in really well. Quickly's a good 6th man. Josh Hart's a good 6th man, whichever one you want to consider the 6th man. Hopefully Mitchell Robinson stays healthy throughout the season, because I think he brings a lot of life to the team as well. And they're young. These are young guys we're naming. There's a lot of youth here. So, we still want to see that one more player. Right? I look at Cleveland and how they're built and how Mitchell has allowed them to be that 4 seed. And if we could get one more guy, and maybe Hart, being there is really added an extra layer, right? Another nice guy off the bench. Maybe we could find another Josh Hart even. We don't even have to get a superstar, and really make Brunson an A player, which he's on his way all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
Like, we talked about him maybe being a B+ kind of player.
We did at the beginning of the year.
He's starting to look like, all right, maybe he's going to be a superstar, and maybe Randall has that guy now. that he feeds off every game, and we move forward with it. So very exciting here in New York. You know, the Rangers are exciting in the Garden. They just have Patrick Kane now for a playoff run, even though I think Boston's going to sweep everybody the way they're playing, but that's besides the point. But, you know, the Islanders are hot. The Devils are better than the Rangers right now. So, you know, you got hockey. The Nets are still hanging in there. Despite,
They are, despite
the
the trade.
hanging in there.
They played.
Yeah, so we talk about, you know, New York baseball was great. New York football was great. New York basketball is great. New York hockey is great. We would have discussed this, 2 years ago? We would be like, oh, man, this is the most sour city in sports. Now it's like every team's exciting. There's juice everywhere. And every sport's got excitement. It's just been a lot of fun, you know, watching all this. And I'm excited to, you know, where we go with this Knicks team over the next, I guess in 3 months it is now, probably, you know, that's if we continue to move forward. But at least the next month or two, we'll see what occurs. I would like to win a playoff series, Mike. I mean, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, and I'd love to.
You know, our Thursday treks into New York City. Maybe
that's what I was going to say. I'd love to watch a
playoff game. Maybe
I was just thinking the same thing.
Maybe the guy on the corner that has 2 tickets for a buck, we'll just grab him from him and run in the Garden. You know, that guy. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I was saying actually, it's funny. I was saying to Dan, I'm like, if the Knicks make, and this was like 3-4 weeks ago, I said if the Knicks make the playoffs, which I think they will, at that time, even back then, I said we all got to watch a playoff game together in Jersey City because it'll be electric.
Yeah, sure. That's right. I forget Dan is a big Knicks guy too.
He's probably a Knicks and a Nets guy, just like he's a Giants and Jets guy. I don't think he can make up his mind.
Yeah, I just think he likes New York sports.
He does. He appreciates New York sports.
He gets stuck on things. I don't know. I just got to like lock in a team and feel good about it, win or lose. I just can't keep flip-flopping around. It'll drive me crazy.
Yeah.
I support certain players. There's guys I like.
Right.
But I just can't do the teams. You know.
I'm just looking at this Knicks scoring against the Celtics and just how balanced it was. It's just really great to see.
No, I know the Celtics were down players and
just one. Vinny, they were fairly healthy. They were down one player.
Jaylen Brown was out, right?
That's
didn't Tatum get ejected?
Who did?
Didn't Tatum get ejected in that game?
He did, but that was later on. Yeah. He was not a factor. He was not a factor the whole game. That wasn't like in the first quarter. That was later in the game, Vinny.
Yeah, I was either I think I was on an airplane or flying when the game was going on. I don't know. I've been all over the United States this week. I have no clue where I was during that game. Just that I know we're making fun of our good friend Matt Carl, who I think it was I think during the game he texted something about baseball, and then I couldn't let that. Because he
wanted to sidetrack the conversation.
Yeah, no. We went. I said no, we're not sidetracking nothing here tonight.
Yeah.
I think I made the comment. Maybe you should have traded Jaylen Brown for Durant.
Yeah. Someone was asking me, they're like, Mike, there hasn't been a lot to celebrate the last 25 years with the Knicks, but are there a couple of things that really stand out to you? And the one that really does that is Linsanity.
That was fun.
And that kind of re-energized New York because Mike D'Antoni was coaching at the time. I believe it was 2012. And Melo was hurt.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Lin was like a walk-on. Sort of like a John Starks in a way, what happened.
Yeah.
Right? Similar. And this guy just went off. And the Knicks didn't really have any well-known players aside from Melo at that point. Yeah, guys, I think at that time, I got to look back, but there wasn't anyone that really stood out.
I think maybe was Amari on the team?
I think Amari was on the team.
Okay. He might have been hurt too.
I'm trying to think like if Nate Robinson and David Lee. Maybe. I think it was that. But whatever. He comes in. I remember they played the Lakers one game. And he just went toe-to-toe with Kobe at that point. And I think they made they interviewed Kobe or something like before the game. Do you know this guy? He's like, no, I don't know this guy. And then after the game, he's like, yeah, he had some respect for him. Then they went to Toronto. I remember he hit like the last second shot, but every game it was just so much fun to watch.
Yeah,
And
the city was juiced.
Huh?
It was juiced around here.
Everyone was talking
pumped
about
up.
it. Because what I joke about, Vinny, was back when I lived in Hoboken, I was such a diehard Knicks fan. Some nights I would go out to the bar, and they would show the Knicks like on the smallest TV.
Yeah,
because they were terrible.
Yeah.
And then when Linsanity came along, all of a sudden you saw the big screen TVs, and the Knicks were the main attraction. And for that brief moment in time, it was just really cool to be a Knicks fan. And I'm just not talking like the diehard Knicks fans, like people who have any kind of appreciation for basketball, what he did for them. It was just really cool time.
Yeah.
That's what really stood out. I mean, there hasn't been a lot to celebrate. There hasn't been. Just again, some of the coaches just were awful. The team play. But for that month or two, wow, it was awesome.
I think you could see how the Knicks fan and the casual Knicks fan gets excited, even how they made the playoffs a couple of years back against Atlanta, despite them playing very poorly. But people were excited that they were just in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
We were excited, and we wanted to see Randall really, be a superstar. He was an all-star that year, the whole thing. We really wanted to see him, really take it to the next level, and he struggled with that and all the stuff that came along with that. But you could just see once they get their foot in the door, the excitement really hits the New York area. It's talked about a lot on TV. It's talked a lot about on ESPN, besides all the local stuff and then all the news media around New York in general. You could see the excitement, that Madison Square Garden. I think people just don't realize the excitement of Madison Square Garden for everything, and especially when a team is good. But there's like no place to go to see like a concert, right? Like Madison Square Garden. No. There's no place to go see boxing like Madison Square Garden. I mean, it's just like all this stuff, It's just an amazing place, and I think it goes back to like those late '60s, right? Like Ali fought Frazier in Madison Square Garden. Walt Frazier and Willis Reed, Madison Square Garden. You can just go through the historical points of Madison Square Garden, and that's why to be, as they say, in the Mecca and be successful there is a whole different thing. You win a championship as a New York Knicks right now, forget it. I mean, look at Clyde, right? Clyde is still the color commentator at, how old is he? 76, 77 years old?
Mid to late 70s. But he's
a superstar still.
He's a superstar. And it's funny that you say that, Vinny, because Mike Breen said the other day that he was voted the most multi-generational Knick because people know who Clyde is. He has his broadcasting, he has his fashion, and he has his play for the Knicks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you're right. The Garden is the Mecca of basketball, not just professional basketball, college basketball. As you said, boxing and wrestling, and back in the day, roller derby.
That's right, roller derby.
and whenever I'm there, I just take a brief moment and always look at those rafters, right? And just look at all those, look at those championships, look at those retired numbers, Reed, DeBusschere, Frazier, Ewing, and just think in my mind, who's next? When's this going to happen? But I feel like now, just like and I'm going to make this comparison. I think the Knicks are very much like the Jets right now. I think the two teams have great cores, great energy, and drafted the right way, made good trades. But they're both one player away from being truly great. And they're coming close. So I think, as you said before, Vinny, that when we look at the New York sports right now, it's celebrated because the teams are winning. Whereas a couple of years ago, it was not a good situation, right? So it's fun in New York. It's going to be a lot of fun Thursday nights, I'll tell you that.
I hope so. I hope we get a lot of fun. I hope we get a lot of fun. And they're just that energy level. Like I already feel it, right? I can feel the energy level already picking up for spring training. People are thinking about the Yankees, and they're already talking about all the young shortstops. And is Aaron Judge gonna repeat the year he has? And over across in Queens, Scherzer and Verlander and all the young guys they got there, and where are they going to be, moving into this season? So you got all that going on with the Knicks in the background. Makes for a real exciting time. So talking about baseball, a little segue. I was watching some of the spring training highlights. I can't watch actual spring training games. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff in preseason that I just can't do.
I can't do it anymore.
I like to watch highlights just to get a feel for things or get to see stuff. And it was interesting with the pitch clock, the new pitch clock and how that works. And they got 20 seconds to throw a pitch. The batter has to be in the box, I think, before the 8-second mark, has to be ready to hit.
Right.
And, a guy like Wandy Peralta yesterday basically got the ball and threw 3 strikes in 20 seconds and struck the guy out. This guy is going to benefit from this clock. He likes to work fast. He likes to get the ball. He likes to get going. You guys can't just step out on you anymore. You got to be in the box ready to go. And, I saw Manny Machado stepping out in his game. He got a strike called on him because he wasn't in the box with like 8 seconds left. They had a walk-off walk with the bases loaded because the pitcher didn't get the ball off quick enough. I mean, there's a lot of intricacies to the whole thing. But I think it's kind of exciting now to see guys get up there, pitchers pitch, and let's just go. Let's play ball. Enough of this.
Yeah,
and out and all the crazy stuff that I think slows the game down and it bores the younger fan, right?
Exactly. You're trying to gain viewership in something where you've lost viewership in a younger generation. So I think by implementing this, it's going to help that. And for the players themselves, like any kind of rule change, you have to get accustomed to it. So I like how it's going to be a faster game. Yeah. It will be interesting to see the stats at the end of the year where league batting averages are, because I'm curious, for people to get set and to get their stance and get set, is that going to help them or hurt them? And we'll see how it all pans out. But for the actual game and for the viewership, it's nothing but a positive, because I got to tell you, even when I was a little kid, I could sit and watch like a 3-4 hour game, right? As you're older, it's like me and blackjack. I love playing blackjack. It's fast paced. It goes like this, right? When you sit at a poker table, you got to have the discipline to sit there for hours. Yeah. And it's not for everybody, right? Yeah. So it's to me, you want to stay focused on the game, and some of these games go 4 hours. It's hard to really have that kind of patience. So I like the rule. I think it's going to benefit people and have people be ready. And again, they have to get accustomed to the rule changes. But
I think Greg Maddux would have won 400 games with the pitch clock. He liked to pitch under an hour if he could. He would love the new way of pitching, because he liked getting the ball and just going, and he threw a lot of strikes and it would just go. But I think it's going to benefit those kind of players. And to your point, I can't wait to see the statistics on guys that maybe had the most clock violations, right? This pitcher has thrown 42 balls because of the pitch clock violation, and this batter had 22 strikes on him because he stepped out, with the hitting violation and all this stuff. But
can you imagine the manager fights with the umpire, like the timing? You're going to see. We should have an over/under before the season starts. How many arguments? There are going to be so many. Oh no, he did pitch it in that time. Like it's gonna be great.
Especially when Aaron Judge gets the below the knee strike called on him, and Aaron Boone starts losing his mind early when that happens. And then if Judge gets a strike called on him because he stepped out and didn't get back in after one of those pitches, that's it. Boone gets ejected a lot. He's going to get ejected even more with the clock.
Right. Yeah.
So even Buck is probably gonna, he's an old school kind of way of doing things, right? So I think it'll be interesting to see how these guys react to that stuff. it's like real like crazy stuff that's going to happen. But I'm enjoying it, just watching the highlights. Spring training.
Yeah.
And I like to see how it's fully implemented and how pitchers really react to it. There's probably going to be certain guys that are really going to struggle, like Aroldis Chapman, or even Loizaga on the Yankees. They would always take forever. They would drive me crazy watching those two pitch. So I'll be interested to see how it impacts them for this season. We don't care about Chapman anymore, but Loizaga could be an important part of that Yankee bullpen. So hopefully he's able to figure it out.
Yeah.
I always figured that that's a big thing. But getting excited for baseball. March Madness is around the corner. Mike, I saw brackets already starting to come out. So I know we're going to do the Vin and Mike bracket this year. So excellent. We will let everybody know how to sign up, where to go, how much it's going to cost per person, and all that stuff. We're going to look to do something fun, like probably a $5 bracket. Pick your bracket, $5. I don't know, maybe a first, second, or first, second, third kind of thing. I don't know, maybe a winner take all. We'll figure it out. We'll announce it to everybody as it gets closer. We're not sure if DraftKings has something yet. I know CBS does, ESPN usually does. I just don't know how they do it with taking money and all that stuff. I just want to make sure that people don't put it in Mike's PayPal account and 30% of the entry fee goes missing. And he's got a new Peloton behind you. He's got the Peloton row now. Mike, how'd you get that Peloton?
How'd you get that Peloton? I'm taking those fees.
I got those fees up front.
Oh man.
All right, we're waiting for our man David Kim here. He should be coming on
any minute. You know what? Real quick, I was thinking about your dad because you told me that he would listen to the spring training games on the radio all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And he was diehard, but like, I just remember I would go home from school, put on those spring training games like it meant. Like I took it very seriously. I looked at the standings every day, and now I look back like, why the hell did I care about spring training standings? Like it doesn't mean anything.
Well, I took it very seriously. That's like people that go, the Jets were 4-0 this.
Right, it means nothing. Right. Oh, the Jets were 4-0 in the preseason. Ooh.
Hopefully, they win 4 games for the whole season.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you get all this crazy stuff that people say, and that's all you do. Let's do the commercial. When we come back from the commercial, we'll bring in our guest, and then we'll talk a little UFC and MMA and all that fun stuff. So let's do that real quick. NBA fans, it's time to bring the hoops action to the palm of your hand with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 and win $200 in free bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, opt in, place a same-game parlay on any NBA game, and if it doesn't hit, you'll get a free bet back. I know Mike is going to bet on the next up-and-coming Knicks game with his same-game parlay. He's going to have Jalen Brunson, 40 points, and Julius Randle, 20 turnovers. Download the app now. Sign up with code TPPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NBA and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA with code TPPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void in Ohio. See show notes for details. It's still voided in Ohio, Mike. I don't know.
Yeah, what's going on? We gotta talk to people in Ohio.
I was there a couple weeks ago, a month ago. I don't know. But let's grab our guest here. Let's pop him up in here. There he is.
Yes.
What is up, Dave?
Oh,
we can't hear you. Test your stuff. I don't know. He's trying. Yeah. Might have to maybe go out and come back.
Go out and come back in.
Try again. Sometimes that happens. It happens to Mike constantly.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus.
When we start the show. That's why if we ever see us more than a minute late, Mike is on his Peloton and not paying attention to the microphone.
Or if Vinny's like he's staring at that one picture behind him.
Right there.
Oh, man.
I know you're going to say I was watching Air Bud if I'm late.
That's right. Enjoy.
By the way, Steve broke some bad news, Mike, right? Our good friend Steve, who's a very big Yankee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
broke some really bad news to Mike that Justin Bieber is canceling his entire concert series.
I started crying.
So, we know, Justin, we know you listen. We do know.
He does listen.
We know he does. He might not admit it. He might not want to admit it, but he listens.
Yeah.
And Mike will more than be, would be more than happy. He'll be more than happy. Sorry, let me repeat myself. He'll be more than happy to come to the show when you're back in New York. All right, let's get
Thanks
see
for that.
back
Thanks
in.
for the television address announcement.
Dave.
Oh, no.
I don't know. What kind of mic you got there, Dave? Oh, maybe it's your headset. Check your settings. There's a settings button. Sometimes you got to make sure that that's set to the right defaults. He's looking.
He'll get there.
All right, let's. No, I don't hear him.
No.
No, I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, he left again. All right. Well, he'll work on it. Maybe we got to get him. We got to get him a. What's the name of our mic? The Yetis.
He needs a Yeti. We got to set up a Yeti.
Dave, you need a Yeti.
Oh, man.
The best. I'll tell you. The best story. Please. The best story of someone logging on was when we had Mike's dad on, Big Steve, and had him come in.
Yeah.
And he was using his iPhone at first. And if you ever see Mike's face drop in utter disappointment when his dad was getting cut off and all the crazy stuff that went on. He went on 4 different devices, I think, before we got him on.
My dad in technology.
But that was a lot of fun show. That was a nice, cool.
I was so happy
betting
he really enjoyed that. He really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. We had a good conversation with him. I think he didn't realize how high energy the show can be at some
I know. I thought he was going to walk out after your intro.
He was laughing.
All right, take
all right, here we go.
This is so
working. I can't.
Yes, we got you.
It does. Say something again.
What's up, guys?
Oh,
what's up? There he is.
Happy Friday.
There we go.
How are you, Dave? How you guys been?
That's some man cave you got there with the lighting.
You know what? If I turn this light off,
no,
it's super dark. It's so super dark that I have to keep that.
We don't want you dark.
Exactly.
We want to see you. So how you been?
I'm doing well, guys.
All right. Let me give you a quick little intro, and then we're gonna jump into some MMA here. So, David Kim is a friend of the show. He's been a friend of both of ours for a long time now. I think we know each other close to 7-8 years, right? Maybe somewhere in there, maybe even longer. I forget. Time just goes by ever since COVID, like 3 years went by in like a blink. But Dave a long time. He's a huge MMA fan, huge combat sports fan. He trains specifically in different areas of mixed martial arts. We'll let him explain some of that. Mike wants to ask him some questions on that. But I do know he's a big UFC fan, and he knows my love for Jon Jones. So that's why I was waiting to have him on. We talked multiple times about doing a UFC show, but I didn't want to do one until Jon returned, and that's where we are. And Dave Kim, everyone.
All right. Hey, thanks. Thank you very much for the.
All right.
Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me. I'm very happy, excited to join you guys tonight. Discuss the return of Jon Jones. It's been over 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Arguably the greatest, mixed martial arts fighter right, of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, the last time, it's funny, Dave, the last time he fought was February 20, right before the world shut down. Like
Wow.
that moment, he was like one of the probably last live events that was going on in sports before everyone got crazy and basically ended, everything, right? Like the Rudy Gobert game, that's what I always call it. Once Rudy Gobert tested positive and the NBA shut down indefinitely at that point, that's when I said to myself, oh man, this is like real, like super real now, right? Because before that, we were always still skeptical, right? It's like, all right, it's, people of this and that. It's not, they're overplaying it, or, the whole media hype. But at that point, we knew like Rudy Gobert. But John was like the last fight before that, and he was basically done with the light heavyweight division after the Reyes fight, and I think we knew that, and we were hoping that he would move up to heavyweight, which he's been basically getting himself ready for 3 years. Took a long time with negotiations, got a new agent, got a new contract, the whole thing, but it's all set. Cyril Gain coming in, the whole thing. Dave, let's talk a little bit about Cyril and what he brings to the table for people that don't know.
Cyril, yeah, he is pretty well known in the world of kickboxing, right? And he's a stand-up specialist. And for a heavyweight, he moves a lot like a middleweight. So he's quick, and he switches stances very often, right? And his MO is just stand up and striking, right? Kick, punch, punch, kick, punch, punch. His last fight, he lost against Francis, right? And he didn't lose with the stand up. He lost grappling, basically. Francis out wrestled him, and so that's always a problem with strikers when they come over from kickboxing. Now you're entering a new world of MMA, mixed martial arts, everything, and then now you have to learn to wrestle, right? But it's a hard art to pick up if you're late to that game to wrestling.
Yeah, and I think we've seen it where the guy that's the big wrestler that goes into mixed martial arts has an advantage over the opposite guy, right? There's a few guys like an Adonijay or an Anderson Silva that more of the striker, that kind of mixed martial arts resume, but your best guys of all time, right? Your George St. Pierre's, your Daniel Cormier's, your Demetrius Johnsons, and of course your Jon Joneses have a wrestling background. Do you think, when you look at this matchup now, and we know how well-rounded Jon Jones is in so many aspects of his game, and looking him at the weigh-in, he looks like he's still 205, with like a little bit of a pot belly, right? He doesn't look as massive as we thought he would be. I think
he looks tremendous,
right? So you would, I mean, you would have thought that he would have looked bigger but I'm guessing his weight cuts were always about 25, 30 pounds. And he walked around probably a lot of 230. So 245, 248, of course, the official weigh-in looks really good on a 6'4" frame. What do you see as far as the actual matchup on tomorrow night? Yeah.
I think it would be wise for him to wrestle and try to out wrestle him and use his, division, his college wrestling background to his advantage. Cyril is a world-class striker, coming from kickboxing, and he moves very well, like a middleweight, at the heavyweight division, which is, who did he just knock out? His last fight was Tai Tuivasa.
Yep.
Right. He, and he outstruck him, and he was winning on the feet against Francis, I thought. But then, Francis, apparently his knee was hurt that fight. And then, he took the wrestling route, but he out wrestled him. He did like very basic stuff, scissor swept him, and just kept top control. And he looked very outclassed, I'd say, in the wrestling front, Cyril. So I think that would be his weakness, and apparently, like, that's Jon Jones's strength, right? So he should use that to his advantage for sure.
Did you see the training video of Jones and Walt Harris, and John take him down with the one arm sweep? Took Walt Harris down with one arm and swept his leg. Did you see that?
I saw some of it, but I don't recall this.
So he basically stepped behind Walt with his right leg. So Walt's a lefty, so he stepped with him with his front right leg behind Walt's front right leg, and then took his right hand and just pushed him down in one move. And, Walt is a 265 heavyweight, 6'4", and he just took him down in like 1 second, like that in training. It was just like typical Jon Jones, just showing that he's just got this ungodly strength somewhere. That you look at his frame, like I always say, it's not he doesn't look like this massive, like Alistair Overeem, right, or Brock Lesnar, but his strength is just unbelievable. It's just so impressive. I mean, I think that's always been the thing. Even Cormier said it was like having wet drapes on top of you, trying to get them off. So if that's like the way to think about it. What do you think about when you see his strength?
He is like freakishly strong, and his build is very strange, right? So he makes 205 and he's like 6'4", right?
Yeah.
And well, he used to. Now he's bulked up. He's spent the last 3 years bulking up, but his legs are so skinny.
I know.
And scrawny, right? He's got the most chicken legs, right? But that's what allows him to make 205. That had allowed him to make 205 for that long, right? Because his weight is just like he's like top heavy, right? And like freakishly strong, and like, as a tall, lanky guy myself, right? Usually, I would have trouble like wrestling a shorter wrestling base, right? Because their center of gravity is so much lower than mine, right? But Jon Jones is like it's like freakish that he's so tall and lanky, but able to wrestle, and then his anti-wrestling is, and like takedown defense is like superb. So it's like very freaky, right? The way he's built. And, I think it goes to show it's like he's one of a kind, and he's reigned, on top of the light heavyweight division. I still consider him undefeated, right? He's got one loss on his record, but it was a DQ in a fight that he was, dominated. So I still consider him undefeated. Those
12-6 elbows to Matt Hamill, right?
Yes.
So, go ahead, Mike. I know you want to ask Dave some questions about his martial arts career.
Yeah. Even before that, my biggest question is, I know UFC started in the early 90s, but it really didn't really pick up till the 2000s. And now, especially with the younger generation, everybody's watching it. So I really want to ask you, what do you feel is really the success for it? Why are people really into UFC? It really feels like it's taken over boxing. What do you feel? What can you contribute to the success of it?
Well, I would say, it's definitely exciting, right? When you see somebody get knocked out, right? Head kick or like a flying knee, right? It's exciting. You don't see that, right? There's always that, if someone was to fight in the bar or something, right? People would gather around to see what's happening, right? So it's like, you get to see that, but on a big stage, right? And I think what really helped UFC propel was they were the only show to continue after COVID, right? So when everything else shut down, right, and no one else was playing any more sports, there's nothing on TV, right? And I think they gained a much larger audience by continuing to put on fights. They were week after week after week. And that helped them grow tremendously, I think.
And they had that advantage because they have the Performance Center in Vegas, which has the built-in arena to it. So they were able to have those shows in like their own house, right? It's like they weren't, charging people or doing anything outside of, COVID protocol. They were still following specific protocol, but they were in their own house, which allowed them as the sport to continue as well. So that Performance Institute, which was considered, something that was, ahead of its time for a sport, now they were able to use it, as an event venue, which they still use today, right? For some of the smaller cards.
Yeah, they still use the Apex.
Yeah.
I think it was part of it was like obligatory that they have the contract with ESPN now, and so they have to crank out the fights. Like he has to put on a certain number of fights every year.
Got it.
So part of that was that, I think, but it worked to their advantage. I think for sure.
Yeah, cool. I really wanted our audience to really I want them to get to know you more. So tell us about your martial arts training, how you got into it. I think people really love to hear about that.
Sure. I wouldn't really consider myself like I'm still a white belt in jiu-jitsu, and I'm still a white belt in Muay Thai. And when I was really young, I practiced Taekwondo, karate, right? But then I kind of just got back to it recently. I started.
What inspired you to do that?
I don't know. I think I've always been a big UFC fan, and then I think just watching it and getting to know some of the techniques just watching it and observing it, and then I wanted to get back into shape too. So I thought it would be a good way to be disciplined and find a routine and go to the gym.
I thought you saw some of my bar brawls and wanted to make sure you weren't part of them.
that too. But I think the more I train, right, the more I understand how much danger is involved when you're in a physical altercation.
Yeah.
So I always say, I train so I can run away from the altercation. So I don't want to be in a physical altercation, right? If it's just me, I'll run away. But I think there comes a point sometimes, hopefully, not in the near future, but when you're backed into a corner, right, and you have no choice but to defend yourself, right, then it's better to know than not to know, right? Or if you're with people, right, that can't defend themselves, right, and then you know how to defend yourself, then you're better off to know and not need it, right, and then to need it and then not know it.
Yeah, great point, and totally makes a lot of sense. So definitely awesome. Let me ask you. This card, there's a lot of other fighters on there. Who else are you excited to see?
One of my favorite fighters currently is this guy named Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think he's not the co-main event, but he's on the main card. He's a guy from Kazakhstan, undefeated, right? I think the guy, who's the guy that trains with Till?
Oh, Hazmat.
Yeah. He gets a lot of the hype, right?
Yeah.
And he's got a big hype train, right? And the UFC built him up. But I think Rakhmonov has the full package, and at 170, can be a real problem and a future champion.
Okay. All right. That's the guy,
And then also there's a dude named Bo Nickel.
Right. The NCAA champion, right?
Yeah.
Penn
Who
State.
has a very high pedigree wrestling background.
Yeah.
And he's been knocking people out though too. So apparently he has hands too. But with that base,
that's it.
With
that wrestling base we just talked about. Yep. Especially he's I think a 2 or 3 time Division I champion.
Yeah.
So that's definitely interesting to see, because the last 2 really phenomenal wrestlers that I know of at that level, of course, Cormier, right? Was a NCAA champion and Olympian, but Olympic gold medalist Henry Cejudo, who actually training Jon now in wrestling. Since Jones changed camps a little bit, he's worked with Cejudo out there in Albuquerque on his wrestling. I'm interested in seeing, that next level of wrestling now of, what Jon brings to the cage. And I think Cejudo might even be in his corner tomorrow night, which I think is real interesting.
Yeah. I think he's the only gold medalist, right? The Olympic gold medalist.
To compete in UFC. Yeah.
And then he's become, champ in 2 different weight divisions, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's been away for 2 years too, right? So the rumor is, right, and with Jon Jones as well, right? With the new rules for USADA, when you get popped, right, and you get suspended for 2 years, right, for performance PEDs, they don't have to announce it any longer, right? So you just have to be away for 2 years and then you could come back. So the rumor is that Jon Jones popped, and then that's why he stayed away for 3 years, because he couldn't come back if you wanted to, and then use that time to bulk up to get to heavyweight. And then the same thing with Cejudo is that apparently the rumor is that he popped for PEDs too, and then won the belt, right, or defended his belt, right, against Dominic Cruz, I think, and then retired, right?
Right after that.
Just to announce the retirement, you got to be away for 2 years, but now he's back, right after 2 years. So it's like, makes you scratch your head. Hey, maybe he did. Maybe that was the reason why he had to step away.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. The USADA testing is unbelievable, right? All those picogram tests and all that stuff. It really knows, like, when somebody's put anything foreign in their body, deliberately or unintentional.
Right.
A lot of these over-the-counter supplements, as we know, you got to be careful with, and people should be, when you're in that kind of sport and you want to be clean and you're taking anything, you should get it tested before you put it in your body, because we all know what we're doing every day. I know what I ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I know what capsule I just took that was sitting in a bottle that I just ordered from GNC, but I should make sure that what I order from GNC, meets regulatory requirements. So, I can send that to them. They'll test it for me and tell me if that's something I'm allowed to take. So I just think when I hear these guys, oh, I didn't know, or, something was spiked, you guys just aren't either A, doing the right thing, or B, you cheated and you're just trying to cover it up, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, if you watch jiu-jitsu on a high level, it's pretty known that everybody in the jiu-jitsu world is on steroids, right? Because they don't even test for it in ADCC or the Abu Dhabi tournament or anything like that. So, and in UFC too, in combat sports, I have to believe that there's a lot of people, on, substances, right? Just being the nature of the sport, right? But not just combat sports, but I look at like these NBA guys too, right? NFL guys. And I think it would be naive to say that they're not enhanced as well. So,
we learned a lot about designer PEDs through the Balco investigation with Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball was probably the sport that really dug deep into what was going on behind the scenes. And you remember, like, certain guys got flagged in that investigation that weren't part of MLB, right? Like Evander Holyfield's name came up, Tiger Woods' name came up, right? Like there was other guys in other sports that name came up. And then you remember looking at what Holyfield looked like, even what Tiger Woods looked like at that one point in his career. And then you can say, all right, it makes sense why their names like came up in these investigations. But again, there's always going to be ways to get around things, right? There's always going to be that one PED that's probably ahead of the testing, or that one really smart scientist that knows how to exactly take when and how to take it, and what part of the fight you can take this and get through an hour's worth of fighting, and it works for a certain amount of time, and it's out of your system before you even piss test after the fight, right? So it's like that whole thing that goes along with that.
Yeah, yeah. And like exactly what you said with the synthetic substances, you can change just like one little, molecule, right, of like a testosterone base, right? And then it's something different altogether now, right? With the same similar effect. And then, they're just not testing because they're not even aware that substances exist, right? Because it's something that's lab made. But they apparently, they talk about the synthetics, the fake stuff, and then also with test, right, TRT, they say that a lot of them will microdose it now, so there's not a huge spike in their level, right? Because what they really test for is like their T baseline compared to of the week of the fight, right, or the night of the fight as well.
Right. They do a lot of like testosterone to estrogen level testing too, right? Yeah. So it's in those ranges. But I know like normal testosterone ranges have a big gap. Like I think it's like anywhere from like, let's just say 400 to 900. So if you could push yourself in that 800 range without there being, other factors and other tests that are flagging, you're probably, in a good spot. Yes. And there's a way to do that without people spiking the other tests.
Yeah. Especially if you're on it when you take the baseline test, right? Like when they test you initially to see where your resting rate is, right? Then you're enhanced at baseline, right? So it's like, that becomes your baseline, so you should stay enhanced the whole time, right?
Right. That's why we're going to test Mike when he gets on his Peloton later, because I seen him do like a 2-minute mile on that Peloton at top speed. You got to see this guy go. So we need to.
I expect a test right after the show.
We got to test him after the show. He sends me his 42,000 steps he walked during the day, and I'm like, how do you walk that far in a given day?
We got to send USADA over there.
That's right. I can't work with a guy that's not being on par here, Dave.
And I can't work with a guy who watches Air Bud.
Dave, do you like Justin Bieber?
Justin Bieber? I don't.
Mike will take you to the next concert. He's a big fan.
This is his comeback. I
don't like him. I don't dislike him. He's just there. So
the co-main event got Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso, and to me, she was the closest before Pena to actually defeat Nunes. At 135. Now she sits at 125 and just dominates there. Do you think, do we have a future where she can move up back to 35 and meet Nunes for like that third time, even though she lost both fights, but they were just so close, both of them. I like to see him do it again. I mean, what are you thinking?
Yeah. I think before Nunes lost, right? That's what UFC was kind of ramping up for, right? To make that trilogy fight. But yeah, Valentina's, an animal, right? I think she showed a lot. I think who did she fight last time? Talia Santos.
Yeah.
Right. And she showed a lot. Santos, I thought, right?
Yeah, Santos is good.
Yeah. She did work her, and Valentina kind of did that. That accidental, purposeful headbutt. I don't know if you remember that, like where you duck down and then you kind of step up into, with leading with the crown of your head and stuff. But, I get it. You're in a fight, right? I think Jon Jones is dirty too, right? With
his reach out is the reach out.
Yeah, if you do anything like where you like make contact with him, his next move is always like a poke in your eye.
Yeah, just puts the hand up. I don't know if he does it intentional or it's just something that he's worked on.
It's something
just
that
as
works,
a defense
right? In the
mechanism.
moment, it gives you a moment to recover, right, and regroup yourself. And then the spinning elbow that he does, right? That always lands in the back of the opponent's head.
Oh yeah, and it's at such a like force because of the spin and the size of his elbow. I think that's the thing you don't realize with these guys when they're tall and long and lanky like yourself, Dave, is your actual elbow bone is bigger than a lot of people that are like under 6 feet, and that connects to your head with that point on it. Forget it. That's like it's like getting hit with a hammer.
A lot of cuts get open.
Yeah. Well, Jon was notorious when he first came into the light heavyweight division to ground and pound with the elbows, and the amount of guys that he busted open over the years was incredible. And that's how he finished a lot of guys early in his career, was just elbows and tons of them.
Yes, that, and then he kind of like signatured the oblique kick too.
Yeah,
where he kicks side kicks the guy's knee, the side of his leg.
Yeah, he did that a lot to Cormier.
Yeah, hyperextends his knee. That was like kind of patented vintage Jon Jones as well.
Mike Winklejohn taught, who's no longer in his corner, but that's besides the point.
Changed camps. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Greg Jackson's still there, but Winklejohn is not.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting because Winklejohn really was his striking guru. But again, he's been doing it for so long now. You would think that he just knows how to do it at this point.
Yeah. Well, you never really want to get complacent, right?
No.
Yeah. No. You always want to be evolving and learning, and then.
Maybe sometimes changing camp, getting new perspective. I'll do that as well, right? Yeah, you got new guys to train with, new ways of learning things, different approach to stuff, the whole thing.
Right. So,
Mike, you ready for it tomorrow?
Listen, this is your thing, Vinny, but I cheer for you guys. I mean, I know how passionate you are for the sport, so always in your corner. When's the last time you both went to a live event?
For UFC?
Yeah.
I've been to weigh-ins.
Have you been to a live event?
I don't really go to like the big shows like UFC. I've been to a few regional MMA fights, like with my gym mates. Like if they're fighting and stuff like that, I'll go and watch their fights.
The last one I've been to was Jones Sonnen in Newark, which was 10 years ago. Right. April of 2013, and that's when Rhonda was first starting to get really big, and she had the autograph signing right outside the arena, right outside the Rock, in that big parking lot, which is next to the dinosaur barbecue, and you had to see the line of people just waiting to take autographs with her, and I think it was like $10 But it was outside, and the line was incredible. And that was when Uriah Hall fought Gastelum in what was that? What's the name of that show, Dave? Where they bring the fighters in? Where Connor's training now.
Ultimate Fighter. Tough. Yeah, Tough. Ultimate Fighter.
That's when Gastelum upset Uriah Hall in Tough, and Gastelum was there signing autographs. And, of course, we were in New Jersey, so Frankie Edgar was there.
Jersey boy.
Yeah. That was the weirdest card. There was Bisping got poked in the eye. He was in that card. I think that's when his eye first originally got hurt.
Oh.
And there was a DQ there. Jim Miller for Pat Healy. I don't know if you remember Pat Healy. And he ended up losing to Pat Healy, but then Pat Healy lost the fight because he tested positive. Someone else broke their thumb during that fight. And then Jon beat Chael, but after the fight is when he broke his toe, and his toe went crooked. during the post interview. It was just like the weirdest card. And I was sitting next to these two guys that knew Jon from his time up in upstate New York when he was a bouncer at a bar when he was in college. And they said they've never seen a guy throw people out of a bar like he did. He would just pick people up and just throw them out. They were like, he's just incredible strength of like this guy. So I always thought about that when people see him wrestle in his strength, that I think about how he was at like 18, 19 years old compared to now. Now he's 35, which, it's not old, but it's on the cusp. But that strength level at 35 is much different than at 25.
Sure.
You just have more man muscles. Yeah. Yes, Mike, look at him now.
Yeah, I don't think it's old in terms of life, right? But in the fight game, I think that's
it's close.
It's pretty
close.
Yeah,
he's got that 8-fight. So he's got that new 8-fight contract, right? And the way I look at it is, if he fights twice a year for the next 4 years, he'll get to 39, and I would think at that point that'll probably be it. I wouldn't see him signing anything additional at 39 unless he goes crazy and spends all his money. But he seems like a pretty well-off guy, even away from fighting for 3 years. He seems like he took very good care of his finances. Had a lot of big endorsement deals.
That always helps, right?
Yeah.
But I think he got divorced too, right?
I don't know.
So
all I know is they said he was putting all those training partners he had. He brought in Walt Harris, Maurice Green, I forget the other guy he brought in, DeCastro. He put them all up in a extra house that he wasn't living in anymore, and put them up for his training camp, living in that house. He made like his own training camp house. So maybe that was the divorced house.
Yeah. But divorces could be pretty expensive from what I hear.
I don't know. I'm not going down that road.
Same.
Mike is good too.
I'm good.
All right, we're running here. I realize we put a lot of time on. Dave, thank you for coming on. You're welcome back anytime. Hopefully, we'll do some more UFC kind of pre-shows or something like that, or just maybe some post-show. We're probably going to be back on next week, Monday or Tuesday. So if something crazy happens in this card, maybe we'll just dial you up real quick and have you pop on for a few minutes.
Absolutely.
So, right. You're welcome anytime.
Who do you like in the main event, Vin?
Me?
Yeah.
I gotta go with my man, Jon Jones.
You can't go against him, right? No, it's like
even I think if he was 39 years old and lost his last 3 fights, I would still gonna give you my vote for him. I got my autographed shirt in my closet. I got my Bone shirt that people know of. I got a bunch of stuff.
How do you think he gets it done?
I honestly agree with you. I think he's going to wrestle him down, and I think he's going to go early because I think he wants to use a lot of energy to keep him off him early. So I think he's going to go at him early, but he's just a very strong wrestler to begin with, and I think the Cejudo training, I think bringing Cejudo in to train with him is going to show a different level of his wrestling. And I think he's going to go old school, drop those elbows, across his skull, and maybe grab an arm while he's there and do like what he did to Vitor, or, something to that effect. But yeah, I think maybe second round. I don't want to say first round, but second round, I think he gets either submission or a stoppage. Because he's not a knockout kind of fighter, right? He never really knocks a guy out, right? He's not like a one punch. He's not a big puncher. We know that. We know his kicks have been devastating through the years, and like I said, those elbows are a whole different thing. And like you said, his wrestling is really probably the difference in the whole fight.
Yeah. His anti-wrestling, right?
Right.
Takedown defense.
And I want to see his speed at 248 because we always knew he was very fast at 205. It'll be interesting to see if he still has that same speed. And against Searle, who, like you said, is very quick, it'll be very interesting to see, how they connect. Because I think early they both might be like this, right, back and forth around each other, not coming forward. But it'll be interesting once they come forward a little bit, who's the one that gets there first too.
Yeah. It's definitely will be an interesting test for Jon, at heavyweight, with like the most athletic heavyweight that there is, right? And him coming up from being such a striking specialist and just dominating 205. A lot of people think that he lost that last fight, against Dominic Reyes.
Yeah, I watch it again, and I think people don't realize, like a lot of people, if you watch that second round, Reyes doesn't really land a single strike. Jon really didn't throw a lot, but if you watch, there's a lot of defense in there, and probably Jon steals that round. When you watch it and you don't listen to the commentators and just see it, you're like, well, that second round probably did go to Jon, and then the fourth and fifth we know went to him as well. That's the way I looked at it when I looked back, because at first, I'll be honest, I was like, he might have lost here. He might have lost. I thought he won, but I said he might have lost. And then I went back because there's so much controversy. I went back and watched it, and it's that second round to me was the difference at the end of it, that he was able to do so much defense that I could see a judge looking at that saying, well, Reyes didn't really land anything. He was aggressive, but he didn't really land anything. And Jon landed some of the shots at the end of that round. And, sometimes that's the little thing that judges see.
Well, I think that's part of the judging criteria, right? Is like the significant strikes. Right?
Yeah.
And who does more damage, right,
yeah.
to the person. So
yeah, I think that's what if you ever get a chance, watch it again and just check it out. You'll be like, oh yeah, look at that.
I will.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how Reyes, right, almost like gives Jon Jones such a great fight, and then
hasn't won ever again.
His career just spirals. I think he's lost like 4 in a row or something like that, right?
Well, now that's another thing, Mike. And we're going to do this another couple seconds here. Guys that fight Jon after, their careers go like backwards. Like it's like notorious for guys like not to continue to have like significant like ability for a while. Like Glover fell off and then finally came back like years later. Like Rashad disappeared. Shogun was done. Rampage was done.
Yeah.
Machida was done. Like you could go through like the guys. It's just insane how the drop off happens. I don't consider like Cormier, to drop off, but he went up to back to heavyweight, and it's like those little things that happen that are quite interesting, especially like after they fight him. Now again, it could be guys are at that point in their career anyway where they were going to drop off no matter, or it's just a tremendous amount of strike you took over a course of a fight that it's just takes you a long time to recover from that kind of fight. That's why, these guys that fight more than every 6 months, they got a loose screw because, 3 months later, you're still feeling those kicks to the rib.
For sure. And it's a very small window too. Like, it's like a NFL running back window. You know what I mean? Like you have a small window where you're,
it's only like you look at it, right? Like in, George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, Jon, Demetrius Johnson, you can maybe a few other guys you can name, but those are like the only guys that had significant careers for like a while. And the reason is they didn't take a lot of damage early in their career. They were able to sustain it. They were able to become champions where you can have a fight every year. You don't have to fight twice a year. So you're able to train. You're making the money now that's your full-time job, right? That's all you do. You have the best dietitian, like everything that comes along with it as well.
Right. So
that ends up becoming a significant advantage over some of the young guys coming up, especially a young guy that starts, getting damaged. Like even like Khabib, right? He had a nice window there. He probably could still be going, never really took a tremendous amount of damage as well. So where Connor has gotten his shit kicked out of him the last few.
He broke his leg too, which was a devastating.
Maybe we'll have that conversation when he comes back to fight Michael Chandler. That'll be an interesting one.
Yeah, that should be interesting too.
All right. Mike,
changed the PED rules for him too.
That's right. Hey, listen, the guy brings more eyes to the sport than anyone ever did. Right, more than Brock did, more than Ronda did. So
he's the biggest star for sure.
Biggest star. Yeah, he's just almost a billionaire now. It's crazy.
Who do you got, Mike?
I want to go Jon Jones. I want to see this.
That's it.
It's happened.
Mike ready.
Yeah.
No, I love how you guys are so passionate about this. It's like me and the Knicks, just hearing you talk. Both pretty awesome.
A lot of fun stuff. All right, we got to go because we're running on time here.
All right, guys.
Hey, thanks for
stick around. We'll get off.
Don't jump off yet.
Don't jump off.
All right, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.